Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Children's Authors segment. I am so excited. First of all, was I the only one backstage hysterical laughing at the end of that last segment? I mean, first of all, I also felt like I was totally dating myself because I'm like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. Do you guys, please help me out here. Tell me that you remember some of that. MySpace, AOL chat.
Yes. I remember all of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, unfortunately I do too. And I think I'm the oldest in the whole group anyway. So yeah, that was all familiar.
Well, I don't know, Jeff. I don't know. I do color my hair. That helps a lot. So
I was waiting to hear
we'll
like Sugar Hill Gang and all that too.
We'll have that conversation at another time, but welcome to all of you. I have been like a kid. I said this last night, I think in one of my tweets, I've been like a kid at Christmas time all over again, like waiting to come on air. And it actually got to be about 1:30, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I go on in an hour. Like time flew. Like these segments have just been flying by, and it's been wonderful. I mean, to listen and absorb, and all of a sudden, I was like I said, I'm like, oh my God, I got to put my makeup on. I've got to get dressed. I've got to look camera ready. So super excited to have you guys here. I'm here with Jennifer Appel, Brianne Fennell, and Jeff Kubiak. And
Hello.
I'm just going to introduce myself quickly, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys because I'm never going to be able to do you justice other than to say you are not just authors one time over, but two, and in Brianne's case, I think three, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 3 times over. So I'm Becky Thal. I'm a member of the Teach Better team. I'm also a 5th grade math and science teacher here in the little but mighty state of New Jersey on the East Coast. I know you're all kind of in different time zones from me. So we'll start with you, Jennifer. Why don't you go ahead and take it away and tell us about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Appel, and I'm on the opposite side of the United States from you, Becky. So I'm all the way over in Washington. I'm closer to Jeff here. We're kind of on we're the West Coast people here. Yeah. So, and currently right now I'm the tech coach at my school. And I published 2 books so far. And I have another one coming out, I don't know, March, April, something like that. And I've been in education 22 years. It's kind of scary to think about how long it's been. But so mostly in middle school. But yeah, that's pretty much me. Oh, and the Teach Better team, I'm the chief heart officer. Sorry, forgot to say that.
I was going to say, if you were going to leave that part out, I mean, to me, that's the most critical role you play in my life. So very excited. Go ahead, Brianne, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brianne Fennell, and I have authored a few children's books. I teach 1st and 2nd grade looping, so I stay with the same group of kids for 2 years. I'm a mom. I have 2 little boys and 1 big boy, Brian, my husband, who I couldn't be on this without his love and support upstairs, keeping them busy. And let's see, I am a lead teacher liaison for the state of Ohio. I recently just got Ohio Teacher of the Year for District 5. And I am a blogger and an ambassador for the Teach Better team.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Kubiak.
Hi, everyone. First, Becky, maybe Jeff Gargis could jump into your class when we go back to school and take some of your 5th grade math lessons. I think that would help him.
Yeah, 5.5 hours, Jeff, by the way. Well, we're under 5.5 now, but yeah, 5.5, Jeff.
I'm Jeff Kubiak from just west of Sacramento, California, a town called Davis. I was a coach, a teacher, vice principal, dean, a principal, and now I'm going to be starting up a new position as a vice principal in Elk Grove. I'm also a consultant for Aludo Learning, and I've authored 2 books. Yes, my first book, One Drop of Kindness. My second book just came out called It's Me, and I am penning a 3rd. And my son is my 12-year-old son's doing the illustrations, and we are working with the amazing Amanda Fox on that publication.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And like I said, I know that you all wear so many hats and you do it so gracefully. I myself just kind of got into blogging within the last year, and I do blogs, and I find that is mentally taxing. So the thought of writing a book, and you all, like I said, you've not just written one, but some of you have a third or you're working on your third. Can you tell me a little bit about that process? Like, did you always think you were going to write a children's book? Like, how did you get into this genre? Jeff, let's start with you.
Okay. I never thought I would write a book. I did write this really compelling book called Hanger the Darer when I was in second grade. It was about a little hanger who did dares. That was fun. I just found it the other day, actually. It was all crumpled up. No, I struggled in school. I hated school. I wrote my name on the papers and that was about it. But then, like you, I had a couple, some dark times in my life, and actually, like, one of the biggest ones is I'm now 11 months sober, and that's really brought a lot of elevation to what I'm doing. And so I used to write a lot, and that would help break me out. And then I started blogging, and when I was teaching, and I love telling stories and getting kids to just be crazy and silly and whatever. Don't worry about the process. And so my thing is just write and let it all come out. And then that's what you got help of friends, family, and, editors, publishers. And, then you send your stuff off to Janet or Brianne and Becky, and then they change some words and add dialogue and make things juicy and yummy. And then it starts to formulate and become like, wow, now I've got some metaphors, some similes, some personalization, all sorts of neat things going. And then, wow, you've got this amazing product. And it comes to life. And the neat thing about, I'm honored to be here because these two ladies are, the stories they tell, and, Jennifer through her dogs and Bree through play. And it's really cool how we all kind of have a different process, perhaps. I don't know, but that's kind of how I go. I just kind of let it go. And people say, oh, I get stuck, or, you get writer's block or whatever. But, think purple. Just start saying the word purple 100 times. That's what I learned from someone. I just start going, and it doesn't have to be perfect or come together yet. There's too many yets. So
yeah.
Sorry.
A lot of love coming through for you, Jeff, and being honest and sharing your story, and we're all super proud of you. For many reasons. But thank you for sharing that. Brianne, can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with starting children's books?
Absolutely. Well, my first grade teacher was a huge influence on my life on just becoming a teacher. And I like to post this photo, and I'd probably have it on Twitter, but it's like me in her first grade classroom, like sharing one of the books that we did during publishing workshop. And so a lot of like my process is I think about things a lot, maybe a little bit too much, like overthink, but I'm kind of the opposite of Jeff, where I don't just write, like I think it through and sometimes just like verbally process it. But that's like my way of being. Like I like to talk. So I like to think it through and talk it through and then put it down. And sometimes like I'll share it with my kids or my students, or, just kind of get the feedback of, who my audience is. But just recently I've been, some of the like experiences that I've had in my life, or, some of the more emotional writing, whether it's through trauma, I find that it really resonates with people. And so I'm kind of trying to step outside my comfort zone and submit, I submitted a poem to one of my friends' books, and then EduMatch is releasing their year in review. And so I did a poem for that. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of like an evolution of writing through time.
That's awesome.
And it's interesting that you talked about, your audience, and obviously writing for children is a lot different than writing for adults. And my 8-year-old daughter is, I have 3 children, but she's my youngest, but she's also the biggest reader. She loves to read. And, Jennifer, I know that I, have her books, and she read them, and she, as most kids are, especially at that age, they're very honest. And and Jeff, I just downloaded your book, and I'm having her read your book because I think those stories in there are just, phenomenal. And I just wish that I had those kind of children's books in my life when I was that age, because, especially like Jennifer, I'll reference your, I'm who, and talking about anxiety. That was not something that was discussed when I was in school, but it is definitely something that I experienced. And, Jeff, a lot of the emotions that are coming through in the stories in your latest book are also things that resonated with me on a different level. And so, when she was reading, Jennifer, your book, and she saw the word anxiety and she knew what that meant, and she said, I go through anxiety. And just the fact that she's 8 years old and is able to articulate that, to me, was very powerful. But it is a testament to where we've gone with children's literature, which I think is super important. So Jennifer, do you want to talk about where your concepts because that's not your first book, but where your concepts for your books came from?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of funny listening to Jeff and Rian. Like, I'm kind of a combo of the two. So I think it's like it's interesting how we all have different perspectives. And I think the cool thing about this is all three of us have written, different perspectives on books. But then if you think about it, we were all students in a classroom at one point, and where we come from to write books is the same as our students. Like, we're all coming from different angles and how we be creative and how we write and all these things. Like, there's three different people here that are all very successful, but in very different ways, right? And so I think that's good to think about in our students. They're the same way. And so for me, the journey was kind of, one, I have dyslexia. And so as a child, I was, tested for special education. I was, my teacher, my second grade teacher, was not super nice and was like, you can't read, you're not smart, you can't do anything. And so I kind of had that like perception in my head that I could never do anything, but I love to read. And so as I got older, I started getting into literature, and I loved books, and I consumed books like crazy. Hans makes fun of me now. I read like 100 books a year. Like, I'm one of those crazy people that reads all the time. And I just love to read. And so I always thought, oh, I'd love to write a book, but I could never do it. I have dyslexia. I'm not smart. Like, I could never do this. And so as I got older, it was kind of like, well, actually, maybe I could. And then I started coming up with these ideas, and I do kind of like Brianne does. I think about things a lot. And so I do the same thing. Hans and I talk about it. And I'm like, well, I have this idea, and this is what I'm thinking. And should I do this? And so I kind of like talk things through. But then I do what Jeff does, and I just brain dump, and I like get on my computer and I type as fast as I can, everything in my brain. And then I have those lovely editors, mostly my husband, that goes back there and helps me organize everything. But I think that it's one of those things where I didn't think I could ever do this. And then once I wrote Award-Winning Dog, it was like, oh, maybe I can do this. And then I wrote I'm Who, and I'm planning on writing 3 more. I have 3 more outlined out. And then I just sent in my manuscript for my adult book. It's like 200 pages. I couldn't believe I wrote 200 pages. And I just submitted that a couple months ago. And so it's like this spiral effect of like, I never thought this would ever be something I could do. I always wanted to, but I never thought I was capable of. And then now it's like, oh my gosh, this is happening. So I think that's another thing to think about with students is they have this power in them. They just don't always know how to get it out,
So would you all agree that once you kind of get this bug and this itch to write a book, whether it's a child's book or an adult book, that kind of stays with you, and then you kind of keep on writing more? I know, Jeff, you talked about you already have another book in the works. Brianne, what about you? Do you have your visions for your next book?
I do. Actually, Mandy will be on here later, but I was just emailing with her. I have several different projects in contract with the wonderful Sarah at EduMatch. And I love her because I'll get excited about something, then she gets excited for me. And so, yes, I have different projects in the works, like different stages of the projects. But yes, I have the bug. I would, sit and write forever. And I always joke too, like I would go to school forever if I could. Like, I can't wait to get my PhD. I'm super excited about it.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about 2021. What aside from the publishing that you all seem to have going on and in the works, what are some of your goals and aspirations for the new year? Jeff, you want to start?
Sure. I really, I want to hopefully get get my book with more exposure, because I think it's, it's something that needs to be put out there, because, growing up, so we had people
Why
in
don't you talk a little, just take us through a little bit of a snippet of your
so,
book, please.
it's me as a collection of, they're vignettes from real students and educators. And, they're all people who have been either, stigmatized, marginalized, prejudices. And so, like, my two kids are in it. My son has ADHD. My daughter has Tourette's. I've got, a young girl that's dyslexic. Basil Morin wrote, he's a African-American male that's got a PhD, has a Muslim American, dual language, and boy in a wheelchair. So hey, this is me. This might be who you think I am, but I have these amazing qualities and can-dos. So, and this is, this is something about me you don't know. Embrace me, right? And so it's all about ditching the labels, ditching the prejudices, and really opening it up. And I think, it's, people kind of hesitate. People say, "Oh, you're so courageous for doing it." It's like, no, like, we all need to be able to do it, but some people still hesitate when it comes to having equity, inclusion, and race conversations. And it's like, God, if we can't put it out here in 2021, then we really are doing things wrong. And so I'm really proud of it, because Basil, then Mia Allen, just Mia did a great job, and I'm just really excited about her. Mia Walsh, she's just the freshman at Ohio University, and she's LGBTQ, and she was really brave. And Kuen Taylor, who is a Vietnamese teacher in Southern California, talked about her experience of coming over. And it's illustrated by a young lady who just graduated high school, Melanie Korach, who's a friend of mine, and she's also an author, but her daughter did it. And so I'm really proud of it, because it's a collection of real things by real people. And it is
phenomenal. It's very powerful. It's a very powerful book for those that haven't gotten it yet. Brianne, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your latest book as well? Give us a little snippet.
Sure. I was gonna pull it over here. This is my latest one, which is Play A Baby Talk. And so it's really a story to kind of help kids who are having another sibling, and how it doesn't have to be scary, and kind of just like it's a funny story, but also I kind of wrote it. It's kind of like a journal of the funny things that my older son Lucas said, like when Max was coming about. And so it's exciting, because it's something that I'll have forever, and they'll also have after me. And so some of my goals, you were talking about goals for the year, being one of the Ohio Teachers of the Year, and then getting to be one of the leader liaisons. I'm hoping that I can take like the questions and concerns of educators that are teaching in this time, and share them with people, and like make a real impact, get their voices heard as well. Just listening we were together last night with my ambassador friends, and just like hearing their stories too. Like that's something that's so special about Teach Better, is that I'm not just hearing from teachers down the hall. Like, I'm hearing teachers from all over and in different countries, and like everybody's experiencing this pandemic at the same time, but not all in the same ways. And even district to district, 30 minutes away are having different experiences. So I'm hoping that with that role that I can really help, or at least, get voices out there, and, work together, bring together. It doesn't have to be, oh, well, somebody said this earlier it's been almost 7 hours that I've been listening, but somebody, forgive me, said this earlier about, having some different experiences, and then kind of taking those experiences to help other people. So.
Absolutely. And Jennifer, what about you? A brief snippet. I kind of already gave it away a little bit earlier, but a brief snippet about your book and kind of what some of your goals are for 2021.
Yeah. So, first to respond to just really quick, Jeff knows this. I bought his book for my whole family for Christmas. So I sent them to all my family because I knew everyone in my family would love it. And my mom, who's the smartest person in the family, she read it and she goes, "Oh my gosh, this needs to be a requirement for every teacher prep program."
I
And
agree.
I was
Oh,
like,
that's
oh,
sweet.
that's such a good idea. Like when I was a college professor, I wish I was still a college professor because I was like, this should be required. If you're going to be a teacher, you should read his book because it
Yes.
really gives you like an honest perspective of so many different people
Yep.
that I just think that would be that's who should be your goal, Jeff, is like get it in all the universities and like have it so that teacher prep programs like read it because I was like, that's a great idea. That should be in every teacher prep program. So
Oh,
anyways,
thank
I
you.
just wanted to say that my family loved your book, by
Yay,
the way.
mom.
They were so excited. Yeah, so my latest book is called I'm Who. And those of you that read the first book, Award-Winning Dog, this is about Ginger. She was in the first book. And Ginger on the outside, it's based on my real dog named Ginger. And she was beautiful. Like she was perfect. She was the dog that like never got dirty. Like she looked like a supermodel. But she suffered from severe anxiety. And so she has these like, internal struggles of anxiety. And she really had a hard time like settling and she would like the real Ginger, she would pace. Like I remember she would just walk circles around the room because she was having so much anxiety. And so the book is just kind of help students understand what does anxiety look like, and then what are some strategies you can use to help you with anxiety. So deep breathing, a safe space, thinking of like trying to get your thoughts onto something else, things like that to kind of like cope with those anxieties that come up. And we all have anxiety, especially now in the pandemic, right? I mean, we're all kind of having those thoughts at times. So it's just a cute book for kids to start that discussion. And I think for 2020, for me, I really want more people to tell their story and be brave. Like in Jeff's book, in Brianne's book, like we're all kind of like telling the story of someone, right? I mean, that's what writing is. And so I just want other educators to feel like they can tell their story. And I also want to empower my teachers, like at my own school, to you're a teacher, you know what's right for your students, you know what you should be doing. And we don't always feel that empowerment. And so I hope with some of the books we're producing, some of the things we're putting out there, that I want to empower people to tell your story, to fight for what you believe is right, like to do what's right, to, with everything happening, we all know what we should be doing right now. And so just standing up for that and believing in this is what I want to do, and this is my voice, and this is what I have to say.
Well, and these books are all so easily, as we've talked about, incorporated into the classroom. In fact, I know, Jeff, I don't know about your latest book, but I do know I used One Drop of Kindness with my own class. Last year we were in person, so it was a little bit easier. This year I got a little thrown off with World Kindness Day because we had literally just gone remote. But you have a lesson plan attached to it. Jennifer, you have a lesson plan attached to yours. And I'm sure you do for your, all do for your other books as well. And so it's easy to incorporate into the classroom, especially when you have that component. And so we actually want to give away a copy of each of your books to folks to use in their classroom. So here's what I want our viewers to do. I want you to drop in the comments if you are using a children's book, and it can't be one of these books because that would be too easy. We want to give you a copy of one of these books to use in your classroom. But if there's another book that you're using in your classroom with your students, and again, we've talked about this in the past too. Like I teach fifth graders. Some of these books are absolutely relevant to be using with fifth grade classes. And so it doesn't really matter what age group you're teaching, you can make it work. So like I said, for the first couple people who respond, for the first 3 people, you will each get a different copy of one of these books from one of these fabulous authors to incorporate into your classroom as something new. And we would, of course, love to hear the feedback after you do. You guys have really inspired me. I'm kind of thinking to myself, plus I've seen all these other authors today, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I need to move on beyond blogs. I need to... I think I need to think bigger.
Wait, that's Becky. That's how Hans wrote his book. He started with blogs, and then he kind of like put all the blogs together. Like that's how it is. It's how he started his book. That's what you can do.
Well, let me, because it's time flies when you're having fun, right? So here I am, and we only have a few minutes left of this segment, and I really do wish. Now, Jeff might be onto something. 24 hours might be a lot, but I can definitely see us maybe going bumping this a little bit more, so everybody gets a little bit of a longer segment next time. But let's start with, what would your best piece of advice be to someone who is an aspiring author or thinking about it, but maybe a little bit hesitant? Brianne, let's start with you. What would be your best piece of advice to somebody starting out?
Sure. And I always talk over. So no, I just wanted to say that I do have both of their books in my classroom. My students enjoy them. I've read them with my kids. So, whoever wins their books they're just so super lucky. So I just wanted to build you guys up for a second. My advice would be just to do it. Don't read a lot first, in your genre. So if you want to write children's books, read all the children's books that are out and get them from the library if you don't want to buy them. Figure out, what the rhythms are, what the niches are, and then tell your story within it. If it's, adult literature, read a lot. I mean, that would be my biggest suggestion. Read a lot of the area that you're interested in, and then go for it.
That's solid. How about you, Jennifer? What would be your best piece of advice?
Yeah, I would say I like Brianne's. Read as much as you can. That's what I tell my kids all the time too. I'm like, if you want to learn anything, just read about it. You can find all these different things. But I think the other thing is, Hans talks about this in his book, is cross training, looking at other things. So I do a lot of studying of areas outside my expertise. So I look at a lot of things. I read Brene Brown. I read Simon Sinek. I'm reading Barack Obama's book right now, on, just talking about leadership is kind of what he's talking about in his book. So thinking about things outside of your own bubble that you're in, right? We kind of get in this education bubble and we talk all these terms and all we talk about is education. And so getting outside that bubble a little bit, it sometimes can bring in those new perspectives, those new ideas, because I get a ton from Simon Sinek and I can teach that in my classroom, even though he's a business guy, right? But all of those ideas it just spurs on new thoughts and different perspectives on things. So I love Brianne's idea of read everything you can in that and then go outside that and find some new things that you haven't thought about before.
Excellent. And Mr. Kubiak, how about you?
Well, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Soul yet, but it's amazing to me. So the thing I find your spark, your inspiration, and kind of look at it from a different perspective. I love how Jennifer was saying to do that. So maybe you love mushrooms so much, but what sparks you about mushrooms, and find a way to kind of tell your story. And then if you don't want to write about it, or you're not, start talking and telling your story into a microphone or some way, but just begin. And remember, there's over 9 million books on Amazon. There's room for your story. There's room for your spark, and there's room for something for you to share, because we want to hear it. And I think it's awesome.
It has been fabulous hearing from all of you. We do have our winners, and there's been a lot of great books popping up in the comments. If you haven't been able to see them, you can go back and read. But congratulations to Brittany Hodges, Maggie Gifford, and Alex T. And our team will be in touch with you to get your information and get those books to you. I really appreciate all of you being here and taking this time. And up next, we have our Teach Better team member, and I love this woman to death, Livia Chen. She will be on with some friends from around the globe. Che and Pav will be here, and Dan Edwards from the UK. So please stick around. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Thank you.